Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, and I'm here with one of the greats of science fiction, a legend of science fiction. And I will tell you the great announcement. Sean Kenny is going to be part of Space Command. He will be playing Patriarch Elias in Space Command Forgiveness, and we are shooting his first scene at our Space Command studios 1 week from today on Tuesday. We're lining up our camera department and our makeup department and our costume department, and even we'll have craft services. So which I'm sure you're glad to hear about. And
That's great, man.
for those of you who don't know Sean by name, you almost certainly have seen him on one of your favorite shows, the original Star Trek. Now, I will tell you, Sean, how you first came into my life because when I was 10 years old, Star Trek debuted. And I immediately loved it. And this is before VCRs. This is before any way to watch a show when you wanted to watch it. You watched it when they aired it. And so I recorded every episode of Star Trek on reel to reel audio tape just in case they never showed it again. And so I had this huge tape recorder that was about the size of a desk. And I don't know where those tapes got
I
to,
bet
but
the sound was incredible because at
yes,
that time the sound coming out of those big
yes,
reels was
yes.
never you could never match it even today,
I
you know?
know it's fascinating, and Star Trek. For those of us who read the making of Star Trek and have been in on the production history of Star Trek ever since, know that the first pilot of Star Trek was shot with Jeffrey Hunter playing Captain Pike, and they shot it. It didn't sell. It was shot for CBS, and then amazingly they greenlit another pilot that ultimately starred William Shatner and was shot for NBC and sold the show. And but
Right.
then Gene Roddenberry, of course, who'd written the original pilot with Jeffrey Hunter, had a problem, which was he had a great 1 hour pilot that had a different lead than the series. So the question became how to utilize it. Now, first of all, for those who don't know what Jeffrey Hunter looks like, this is Jeffrey Hunter as he looked in the original Star Trek pilot. This is a novel by the great Dorothy Fontana, who was a scriptwriter and story editor for the original Star Trek. But so maybe you'd like to tell Sean how you first got involved in Star Trek and how it led us to this moment here.
Uh, Trying to make it brief, I didn't know about the series yet because it had not been shown. I was in the theater. I played a role one night where I played the lead, and there was a woman in the audience named Mitzi McGregor. She was an agent. She came backstage. I'm taking off my makeup, and she says, I think I know about someone that would like to meet you. And I said, oh, who are you? And she said, well, I'm an agent. And she, clarified who she was. And she says, I would like to have you go and meet him. And I said, oh, what's his name? And she says, oh, it's Gene Roddenberry. And I said, I don't know the name. Oh, you will know his name, you know. And so sure enough, went to meet Ernie Loso and the other guys in casting. And sure enough, the next week, I was in Gene Roddenberry's office. And man,
Wow.
he came in with a picture of Jeffrey Hunter in his pocket, right? And he pulled it out and he kind of went over to me and he went and put it up to my face. He looked at me and he said, "It's a match."
Wow. Wow. And just put it in context, this
Yeah.
is what you looked like at the time. This is
Yes.
a photo
Yes.
you were gracious enough to sign to
Exactly.
me, and you can absolutely see the strong resemblance to
To
Jeffrey
Jeff
Hunter.
Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Except you were far younger, and
Yeah.
but other than that, it's yeah, we get it.
And that's how it really happened. And then he asked me if I was allergic to this and that. He said we're going to have you in makeup for like 2 or 3 hours, and sometimes you'll. Do you mind if we dye your hair? And there was all those things. And of course, when you're a young actor, knowing you're going to have a lead role in a show, you say yes to everything, right?
Yes,
And
yes, of course.
and so sure enough, they were very happy the way it came out, and the hair went to white, then it went to gray, and then afterwards they dyed me black. As you saw the picture you just showed, Mark, that
Yeah,
was me
yeah,
as Lieutenant DePaul, which was as the first helmsman on the ship that had
yes.
lines. Everybody else was sitting there just never doing anything, looking like they were working on the ship, right? So he gave me lines, and I don't know how far you want me to go with this thing
No,
today.
it's fine. It's great. It's great. And then also, and just to clarify, how they were, why they were casting you as Captain Pike. And again, and nowadays, of course, everyone who's a Star Trek fan knows who Captain Pike is, thanks to Strange New Worlds and Anson Mount. But
Right.
Jeffrey Hunter was the first one to play Captain Pike. He was
Correct.
gonna be the series lead, and you were the
Correct.
second actor to play Captain Pike. And the
Right.
reason was, of course, because Roddenberry was thinking, "Well, my God, how do I do this?" And he said, "Aha, we'll have that first episode be a flashback to Spock's first captain, which was Captain Pike on an earlier version of the Enterprise, which explains why it
Mhm.
looks somewhat different." And the idea would be that Pike was harmed, was wounded, severely wounded in an accident saving
Yeah,
Starfleet cadets, and he's left in a wheelchair, essentially a futuristic wheelchair, and can only communicate beep beep for yes or beep beep for no. And so this is how they made you look
that's
in that
correct.
episode. And the idea is that Spock kidnaps you to take you back to the planet that was established in the pilot, so that
Yeah,
you can be telepathically uh, enhanced to believe your body is whole again, and you get to be with Susan Oliver, which is not a problem. So
no. And I met
so
her late. I met her later. You know, I of course I wasn't on that show. That was 2 years earlier. But I met her at a woman's house that called me and said, Susan Oliver's over here. And she never met you. And of course, you were after the fact. And I ran up to, I was in Hollywood at the time, and her house was up off of Fairfax somewhere on the strip. And I walked in and I looked at her, and she looked exactly the same.
wow,
And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "You just made my whole life. You and Jeffrey Hunter's situation with you two made my whole life just change like overnight with Star Trek." And I asked her what she was doing. She said she was a pilot.
huh?
Susan Oliver was a pilot. She flew for private airlines.
Wow,
A lot
wow.
of people didn't know that.
Yeah, so
And
she went from starring in a pilot to being a pilot.
being a pilot, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I
wow,
just wanted to give you that little note in there
wow. But
on having
yeah,
met her about four
yeah.
years, 2 years later.
Well, she was wonderful in that pilot as Vina,
She
sometimes
was.
blonde haired, sometimes green skinned Orion slave
Oh,
girl,
well,
which
yeah, when she put on the green skin makeup,
yep,
nobody could believe, and that was Freddie Phillips who did the makeup. And Freddie was incredible. When he saw me, he said, "Oh, I got to do this and this to you, and I got to make you look more like Jeffrey Hunter." It's not hard for me. He said, "But you're young." And
wow,
Jeffrey was about 40, maybe. I've just done some things with Jeffrey's son, and
hmm
we talked about that. And so if Dixie, his wife, hadn't talked him out of doing it, he would have been in the second pilot. But
yeah,
that's why Gene had to use it, from the first pilot to embellish it with me and make it seem like it was Jeffrey Hunter. And if people
yes,
bought it, they bought it. I guess I looked enough like it.
yeah, and I think it's the single most brilliant use of a busted pilot ever. I mean, it was
Yes.
incredible, brilliant, and Aspel worked terrifically well as a story. I mean, for anyone who hasn't
Oh,
seen the Menagerie,
yeah, it made it more dramatic when Leonard knelt down and said, "I have it all planned, Captain. It's 6 days away at maximum warp." I mean, everybody in the audience, and I even got the nerves around my shoulders going off when he
mm,
knelt down and said that to me. That's probably one of the most dramatic moments in all of Star Trek TOS, the
yes,
original series,
yes,
because nobody figured that whoever wrote that, and I think it was Gene, was someone else. Those lines were so impactful on
yes.
people. I've had people today come up to, "I'll never forget when you were in that chair and somebody, when Leonard knelt down and said to you, like out of love, because he never showed his human side, that
Yes,
he was gonna do anything to get you free of the,
yes,
whatever the
yes.
thing I was in and everything. It's just amazing.
It was wonderful, and of course, another singular honor you have is being a Hallmark Christmas ornament, because they did Captain Pike as an
Yeah,
ornament. You can push the button and you hear some of the dialogue from
yeah.
the show. So
I have a few of those still left, and I have my site. I'm gonna a shameless plug, but like I got, can you believe it, Mark? I got StarTrekActors.com. It was available.
wow, wow,
I
that's
got it,
great.
and then I put on the Christmas ornaments, and now
That's
Christmas is
great.
coming, so I have a
Wow,
bunch of them, and I
that's great.
signed them. I signed the little guys with a silver pen, and they're
Wow,
still out there from Hallmark.
I know,
And
and
that
it's
line,
amazing.
yeah,
That's great,
and
and you've
that
also
line, yeah,
mhm,
that line I just said,
is
Captain, I
there.
have it all planned.
Yeah,
It's on there.
wow. And you also, of course, have written your autobiography, and can they get that there as well? Can they order that? Is there
Sure.
that site?
You know what? I really don't do a shameless plug like this, but the book is doing very well. There it is.
Wow, that's
Actors Doc.
great.
It's Star Trek Captain Pike Found Alive.
Yeah,
And my wife got me to write it and she edited and did a brilliant job.
yeah,
And now it's getting 5 stars and people are ordering it from StarTrekActors.com.
yes,
And I'm saying, what is this? Is amazing, this reincarnation of Star
no,
Trek. But I really think that it has to do with Anson doing
mm,
what he's doing.
yes, it's
It's
definitely,
kind of
yeah.
rebooting the whole thing. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yes, yes. And because again, he's doing such a great job, and
Yes,
it really is the closest of the recent shows to emulate the original show. In fact,
sure.
one of the things I've said to a number of my friends is it's the only instance of a pilot being shot and then being greenlit 60 years later. You know, which is because that's the show they
Yeah,
greenlit. It's the one Roddenberry wrote,
yeah.
and so that's pretty amazing. And another thing I love about Star Trek and the warm-hearted community that Star Trek fandom represents is the fact that as an actor, you can do just a few days as a guest star
Yes,
on Star
yes.
Trek and be popular all these decades later.
The rest of you, you know who I talked to the other night? She called me because I'm helping her get out there. Is Sandy Gimple. Now,
Hmm.
Sandy Gimple was a Telosian
Mm,
in
yes,
in the original pilot.
in the
And
cage.
she looks incredible. I think she's 80 something. She's
Wow.
sharp. She's with it. She's, oh, Sean, I'd like to blah, blah, blah. And I'm just looking at the wall right here. And there she is, Sandy Gimple. And my friend Felix is on the other side. And this is a poster on the Menagerie.
Mm,
And sure enough, uh, these guys are still, God bless Felix. He passed away last year or
yeah,
2 years ago. But Sandy is so with it.
yeah. Well, that's great. Well, one of the great mysteries, of course, of Star Trek is how it can be over 50 years ago that you shot the role and you've only aged 10 years because you look terrific. So I
Thank
feel,
you. Thank you,
yeah,
Mark.
yeah, no, but it's it's
Yeah,
it's it's wonderful. And again, for me, as a kid who, I mean, I have this career as a writer, producer, director with
correct.
hundreds of hours of network credits because of Star Trek. Because as that 10-year-old
Wow.
boy, it opened my heart and made me want to learn how to write and produce and direct television. And it's such an incredibly powerful medium. And Space Command exists because I wanted to create a show that would be a hopeful vision of the future that would inspire people the way the original Star Trek inspired me. So
Yeah.
to have you and we shot a scene with Michelle Nichols before her passing. I met her when I was 10, when Star Trek was on the air. I had a tour of the set when I was a kid, and so to be working with you and so many people who've inspired me is just Christmas. We talked about the Christmas ornament. It's Christmas every day for me being able to
Oh,
do this, and
thank
so
you.
yeah. So I'm very grateful. And I'll tell you one funny thing about Star Trek. Years ago, when I was in my 20s, I wrote a book called The Twilight Zone Companion, which is about the old Twilight Zone TV show. And I
Sure.
became friends with one of the great directors of Twilight Zone, Douglas Hayes. He became a dear friend, and one of the actors who was a friend of his was William Shatner. And so prior to Star Trek, Doug would always try and get Shatner to star in a pilot, and Shatner always declined because he didn't want to be stuck on a show for a number of years. And so then Doug hears that Shatner's shooting the Star Trek pilot, and he calls Shatner and says, what's this about you being in the Star Trek pilot when you won't do mine? And Shatner said, "Oh, it'll never last."
Oh my God.
So amazing,
That's
amazing. So
that's a punch. We used to call it that's a punch to the gut.
yes, yes, but here we all are, thanks to this amazing journey that we embarked upon over 50 years ago. So I'm very grateful. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but we're gonna have an adventure. We're gonna, I mean, start Space Command. The first season, 12 hours. We're shooting hour 6 now. And when we love people we work with, when we stick them in other roles, we do all sorts of stuff because
Good.
we love
Well,
creating an
good.
ensemble.
I'm just happy to work with you. It's just
Yes.
making me very, very happy.
It's going to be very fun. Well, so thanks very much, and we'll see you in a few days on set. And I'll send you the script and the rough cut of what we've been shooting, so you can see it. And I've
Sure.
already sent you the first 2 hours of the show, and it's going to be really fun. So thanks
It
so much,
is.
Sean.
Okay.
And to all the Star Trek fans, I mean, I think you and I both feel enormously grateful to them as well.
Yes, we do. I do too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you. Thank you,
we'll talk
Mark.
soon. Thanks very much. See you on Tuesday. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.